Ever stood at a bus stop or sat in a busy pub and experienced the unnerving sensation that someone is eyeballing you? The feeling is usually intangible. It's a sixth sense thing rather than a sign, but it's overwhelming and inescapable as the skin shivers with goosebumps and the hairs prickle across the back of the neck. In Afghanistan, while going about my business with a private security firm, I often took these cues as a warning that something terrible was going to happen. In civilian life, though, it carried an altogether different vibe. That I'd probably drawn attention to myself for reasons that were either very good or very bad. Wild camping on a cliff top above the horseshoe-shaped coastline of Lulworth Cove in Dorset was an incongruous place for it to happen, though. I was well hidden. There was a starlit sky around me, a claustrophobic silence smothered the landscape for miles, and a gentle, summery breeze riffled across the sand and grass above my foxhole. I looked around. Nobody can see me out here, surely, let alone stare. Then, a large black mass blocked out a chunk of the Milky Way. My stomach tightened. A giant, man-sized shape loomed ominously, and I feared my first night on the southwest coast path, the opening steps in a Hail Mary journey that was supposed to bring some hope to a desperately hopeless chapter in my life, was about to end in violence. What a terrible start. I'd never been homeless before, but now my entire life was stuffed into a Bergen backpack weighing around 30 kilos. But while I was equipped for all conditions, I was unaware of the rules of wild camping, and that suddenly felt like a terrible oversight. If there was some unwritten code of conduct between the part-time travellers that walk the coastal trails for fun and the homeless and the desperate that were doing it out of necessity, then I had no idea of those rules and what they entailed. The former Royal Marine in me had chosen to make camp in a large natural divot in the ground. Having wrapped myself in a sleeping bag, I'd immediately fallen asleep. But this might have been a major error. What if I've inadvertently stepped into someone's territory? There was a surge of adrenaline as my eyes adjusted to the darkness and an instantly recognisable angular shape, all jagged edges and gnarled bone, edged closer. Antlers. It was a bloody stag. The thing was huge. A loud, explosive snort came from its nostrils, and I felt its warm breath on my face. God, it stank. Like wet dog and damp gym kit. Kicking away the sleeping bag in a panic, I scrambled to the lip of my foxhole and edged backwards, wondering whether anyone had ever been killed by one of the marauding beasts. In my former military life, I'd been taught how to stand up to the enemy, but I couldn't recall any instructions on what to do when confronted by an intimidating animal. All sorts of questions pinged around my brain. I knew there were different survival techniques to use when staring down a brown, black, or grizzly bear. Should I use the same approach here? I wasn't even sure if the bloody thing was passive, aggressive, or violently territorial, but not wanting to take any chances, I frantically pulled my kit together and jogged along the coastal path to a nearby church for shelter. A quick search on my phone revealed that stags were relatively harmless, but they were loaded with spiritual meaning. For native North American tribes, these proud animals were a symbol of strength, spiritualism, and courage, of protection and the beginning of a new journey. Some people considered them to be indications of impending rejuvenation, transformation, and enlightenment. Telling myself that I'd overreacted and that everything was going to be fine, I slept fitfully on the church's doorstep, stirring every hour on the hour when the church bells clanged triumphantly. With each waking jolt, I cursed my plan and tested my resolve with a simple question. Mate, what are you doing? The honest answer was that I really didn't know.